Sports talk. The martial arts. Certainly karate is the sport of the 80s in martial arts and probably been popularized by Chuck Norris and in the 70s, Bruce Lee. Well, tonight we're going to talk about the martial arts, and tonight I have three guests in three different martial arts. Bill Gill, who is involved with Jiu-Jitsu here in St. Catharines. Melvin Reed, who's come all the way across the pond from Kent, England. We'll be talking about all-style karate since that's his specialty. And Professor John Clarke, who has his sixth dan in judo, and he's also come across the pond from Kent, England. You'd like to ask a question dealing with the sport? Yourself now, John, you know, you originally got involved with judo by reading a book. You went into the Army in England, and actually as a chef, from what I understand, that was your specialty. After the war, you were a caterer, but all of a sudden you had time on your hands, unfortunately through an industrial accident. You wanted to do something with yourself. You picked up a book of judo, and you actually started taking up judo by the book. What's the story behind that?
Well, the actual fact was that beforehand, during the war and that, I'd practiced boxing, done a bit of judo and jiu-jitsu rather, and a bit of wrestling. Then after the war, when we started work, the most popular sport then days in Great Britain was jiu-jitsu. Judo was only a minor sport. This is where a lot of people make a mistake. Jiu-jitsu was very popular, and judo is only a branch of it. And then eventually picked up a book. There was four of us at the time. There were no clubs about, and we got some mattresses on the floor with a piece of old canvas over the top of them. We started reading in the book. Looked good, we tried it. We went on, and eventually we found out other people had done the same. We joined together, band together. That's how we started.
What I find very interesting about yourself, John, is a sixth dan, and that's very impressive upon itself. But you have a problem at home because your wife has a fourth dan. And that may be and could create problems. And I find it very fascinating the fact that not only your wife has fourth dan, but your son was an official, had a chance to participate in the Olympic Games in 1980. You have two sons that are involved, and it's followed down now to your grandsons. That's really amazing.
But with my wife, she was a black belt before I was.
Is that right?
That's true, that's a fact. And I wasn't all that interested. I was more interested in getting in, having a tussle, obeying the rules, and try to win a few championships here and there when I did. And she got her dan grade, which is a black belt. And then I tried to catch up with and pass her, which I did eventually. But she's also very good at it, you see. But you've got to remember that particular time, it's very hard to get a dan grade. There wasn't the difference of it is now that you've got more things to learn and study, but in them days you had to have a lot of competition. You had to win championships and things like that.
Okay, talking about your wife, in fact, being a fourth dan, how popular is judo amongst the sex of women?
Not very popular, not today.
Really?
No, I really mean it. There's very, very few women do judo, which is a pity, really.
And what do you feel, John, would be the reason for that?
Well, contrary to what you read in books, judo is not a self-defense. It's not an attacking sport whereupon two people learn the rules and they grapple with each other and fight and try to win. And there's a lot more to it than that. But then if you want something for self-defense, you go to jiu-jitsu, right? And jiu-jitsu, which complies with karate, sambo, whatever it is, all mixed up together. And that is the sport which I suggest people go to for, you know, for defense and attack and defending themselves, women in particular. But with judo, they found it too hard. There are some good women in the world. I mean, America's got a beautiful team of women, because I've seen them over in Great Britain, and so the British got some as well.
But it's interesting now because they have taught, believe because of the increase in rape, they've suggested that women take self-defense courses, and I would think, well, judo would also be something that they could take that would not be maybe quite as difficult as learning the jiu-jitsu art.
I did it on a temporary basis for 3 and the education authorities turned around and said, well, would you like to do it full-time or work out a system, how much to pay you, etc. And it became very popular in the school at that time. But these were children over the age of 11 years of age. See, and most of it was taught to 3rd and 4th, 5th years. Boys and girls, not mixed, you know, just single. And this is how it came about. And it was a breakthrough for a lot of people, because after I started, my wife, she worked in private schools, and so did my son, and quite a number of other people, and gradually, bit by bit, the jobs entered into the public schools, and it made a lot of work for quite a few people.
And it's interesting to say the first person introduced, here's my profile on Professor John Clarke. He was born in Kent, England, in fact the same place as Melvin, Stilling board?
Sitting Bull.
Sitting Bull. Sitting by the ball.
He's 62 years old. He's taken up the martial arts just after the war. He has competed internationally from 1952 through 69 and has been European champion in 1959 in the middleweight class and in 1961 in the light heavyweight class. 4 times he's been English Open champion. He's been the Welsh champion once and the Scottish champion. As mentioned, he was the very first teacher to introduce judo in the British state school system. And as also mentioned, his wife has a 4th dan in the martial arts, and his son actually was one step away from the Olympic Games in 1980. Unfortunately, due to an injury, he could not go. But his family, his grandsons and his other sons, are still involved with the sport at a very high competitive level. And I should also like to mention that Melvin Reed's brother is also a 1st dan in the black belt and continuing the sport. So it's a continuing thing in families. In Bill Gill's case, his son is taking up the art, and hopefully will continue in his footsteps down the road when Bill gets a little bit old and weary, of course. Now, let's talking about organizing a school. Now, in the case, I'll ask each one of you going across the board. In England, for somebody to start off a school, a judo school that would be accredited by for instance, now I see on this jacket, International Budo Federation. What is that, and how do you get an accredited school?
You see that you've got a governing body in every country for judo. You've got the British Judo Association, which is a governing body for judo. But we belong to the International Budo Federation, which neither promotes judo, it promotes judo as well as karate and all martial arts. We do all types of martial arts. So, but what we do is we've got our own system, but we abide by the rules of the governing bodies, and every country's got a governing body. Though there are groups that run on their own, and what they do is when they get somebody of good competitive category, they shove them into the main group, you see, and they just keep going, practicing, training the people, and then when they're good enough, they're pushed up. And that's how we run them. But there are people, you can get people who run clubs who are not recognised by anybody in any case, you know. But each country has got a governing body.
Does that happen very often? Is it a widespread thing at all, or are they controlled by a board, or what kind of board would control?
Well, I don't know, because I wouldn't like to say how they do it, but there's a lot of them do it all over the world. But in our case, if you belong to us, you have to take examinations, you have to coaching awards, you have to go through rigorous training sessions, and you have to know exactly how to teach, what to teach, when to teach, and how to conduct yourself. If you've got any kind of blemish on your record, then you just got no idea, you won't get a pass at all.
Now here yourself is, you've been a world traveler. In fact, not more than a couple weeks ago, you came from the beautiful, soft, and gentle country of the Soviet Union. And from here you're going to Italy, Italy and Spain from Canada. You are here in the city of St. Catharines, of course, to promote the sport of judo. There is a gentleman here, Frank Fraser, who has actually the only school in St. Catharines. He has 25 members in his particular class. What are you going to try to do in adjacent with Frank to upgrade and maybe bring the sport of judo, make the sport of judo more popular?
Well, the idea is that what I'm trying to do is all voluntary, mind you. We go around and I go to various different clubs and try to promote it with him, so that people get a different concept of what judo's about. And I think in lots of cases people got the wrong concept of what judo's about.